got, we have,
nice to meet you.
Finally.
What's up, man? Nice to meet you. Basically, we had a call yesterday, and they're like, seems like y'all are going to be more of like as-needed staffing. Right now, yes, but we've got this company that we acquired, Torc.
Yeah.
They can build a talent community. We can start to accelerate that. We're going to have talent on demand and a little bit more so.
I would love to just like dive in with mainframe and do like an entire campaign, kind of like these like very like kind of this like eclectic 80s type vibe, like marketing side, to make it modern, but then like kind of throw in a little Severance, like because they're all on the computer and make it kind of like that vibe. That would, and it would crush. Like literally, I've been saying my like joking tagline is like mainframe's back.
Yeah.
And like we just went out, and if we like, there's so much money in that. There's so much money in that. And so everything we're doing is limited. Like we did a limited edition Severance shirt with all things open.
That's the one I'm wearing.
Yeah, that's the one he's wearing right there. So it's like we're trying to do fun stuff. The community loves it. We're about to launch our ambassador program next month, where we're gonna have like technical creators in the AI space developing technical content for us that we can repurpose through content. So
cool.
Yeah, just to make it more of a meaningful type of experience with us.
That's cool, man.
So yeah.
We build AI-enabled tests that get served up. So like the U.S. business can be served by this, Latin can be served by this, India. It's like doesn't matter. So like the recruiters still do their thing. They all get put into the community. They get the Torc assessment, and then they're perfectly badged for that particular client's needs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then we have like an entire, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but then so like a hiring manager can hit our platform and then see basically everybody.
So they can see, ideally they can see everyone that's like worked as a consultant at their company. They can see people who are badged in Snowflake. They can see people who are full stack developers. We have it all modularized, so it's like there's an Angular test and a Java test. And if you pass both, you're now certified full stack developer for that client.
It's interesting.
And so it's the same way with where we're kind of doing it a little more manually. And with like Sergio as the matcher.
Yeah.
Now it's just like, hey, the recruiters do their thing. We don't mess them up at all. They just funnel candidates into the assessment. The assessment determines the top 10%, and that's who gets through to the client.
Yeah.
And we've been putting a ton of emphasis on assessment work too. I know I've been a part of conversations. I'm working with Ken, our head of product, on that, just because, I mean, I'm big on assessments, but I think it's a very interesting line to do with developers, because most developers don't like to take assessments because they don't know why they're doing it. So like, you know, literally we're in the Discord, we're adding developers, getting real-time feedback, giving it back to product. I mean, the loop is like extremely tight from that. And as long as developers know why they're taking the test, they'll take it.
Yeah.
The problem is most staffing companies are like, hey, take a test, and you're like, all right, never hear from you again. Thanks for wasting your time.
Yeah, and it's a challenge because for developers, it's the least appealing thing, but for the client,
it's the most appealing thing.
It's the most appealing
thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And so being able to tell this story through content is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So. If we hired people that most traditional community teams would hire, they would not know how to think sales first. But because I've been in it, I literally tell everybody, it's like, listen, just when you talk to anybody with a hiring manager title, just see if they're hiring, see if they're using vendors. Yeah. Because really, from a community perspective, if you're doing it right, we should be what marketing should be, which should be leads as well. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So that's why I literally have Jason like going to all the booths, be like, so y'all hiring? Y'all using companies, vendors? What are you doing?
I feel like a majority of account managers don't understand their clients' needs in tech staffing.
Yeah.
So they get into calls and it's very transactional.
So transactional.
And so I think, to me, one of the big things that differentiates us is that having that expertise in what the client's actually looking to do and how to solve their problems and speaking their language is paramount.
Well, that's all clients want, right?
Speak to other use cases.
Yeah.
What's my competitor doing? Am I on the right track? You don't have to tell them exactly what you're doing. They want to hear that they're not like completely wrong.
Well, because they'll listen to us if like you stay consistent. And this is what I've picked up. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, we'll take it out of the video. But I do feel like one of the benefits of using Ronset is there's like, for the most part, a single point of contact. So one of the issues with my last company that I think really hurt was you had a contract person, a perm person get on the same call. So that's already
Competing over the
like
same
competing over the same client, and then or if I brought in a client that was fully remote, but somebody was using them, then I'd have to like bring it. It's very confusing to the client. All the client wants to do is work with one person. They don't want to work with 6 of us. But we don't want to work with 6 of us.
No.
And so it does seem like, and is that consistent though? Is that relatively consistent?
Yeah, we've
There's obviously some different outside cases.
Yeah, but generally, yes, it's a single point of contact, and I think that's where we add value, right? Sometimes they'll come to us and say, hey, we need to do this project, and it's not IT focused, and I can say, okay, great, I'll work with that team, we'll initiate, we'll engage. Yeah. But you can always have that single point of contact of like, hey, come here, if you need anything.
Because they know you.
They know me.
Exactly, and that's the big thing. They know Zach, they know me. It's just, yeah, that's great. I think sales and staffing is always kind of a tricky situation because it's like, we haven't done necessarily, I have not coded, but I've helped staff up engineering teams just like y'all have helped staff up teams. So we know how to, the actual hiring process is easy to do. You just got to get out of it. Yeah, we're subject matter experts, but we're not. Exactly.
Know the process.
Yeah.
We're not experts in coding.
Right.
We're experts in procuring people. And we have a different way of doing it through a tech-enabled approach that works quicker and faster. Quicker and faster, cheaper.
The XY problem is how I kind of define it when I talk about it is that sometimes a client will come to us and say, hey, we just need 5 resources. It's like, okay, great, we can do that, right? But they think of us as a staffing partner. We can do that. It's center of the circle for us. But I think one of the challenges is overcoming that initial assumption of the client of, well, hey, we're going to get them 5 resources and that's all we can do.
Right, yeah, because then you get to that point, you're like, oh, that's purely transactional, and that's not what we want to do.
Right, and so asking questions and leading them down the path of like, hey, yes, we can get you those 5 resources. What do you need them for? Okay, great. Is there a project? Okay, great. We actually have project services over here. Do you need these 5 resources once a year, twice a year? Great, we can build a talent community, right? And so you start to look at uncovering the why behind why they have the needs, and then you can actually position yourself to be a strategic partner versus, hey, you said you need 5 resources. Great, you do need 5 resources, but how do we help you more strategically and be more of a partner versus just handing something off to you?
That's one thing in my previous experience with sales teams, and that's why, I mean, I've worked with sales team enough at Torc, but even what you're saying, everybody's just so transactional because if you go the traditional recruiter route as junior people, they're asked these questions and there's not that relationship like long-term building to where, and there's a constant education on your side to be like, all right, we're going to start to kind of like, instead of being transactional, we're going to try to build a relationship, try to get embedded in the business, try to really kind of like sink our teeth in solving business problems and not trying to just solve the individual need at heart, which just goes back to community, right? Yeah. To have that pipeline, which is so funny because every staffing company actually has community. Like really, like I've said this from the get-go, I think the fact that no other staffing company has a head of community is wild to me.
I know.
Because literally at the fundamental level, our business is people. So why do you not have somebody championing the process for the people on your platform?
Yeah.
To me, that's crazy.
I heard a statistic a couple years ago, it may have changed from now, but there were, industry average was like 8% on redeploy. You have a resource on contract, they finish their contract effectively, 8% was the amount of people that generally staffing agencies were able to redeploy. So like to your point, having that community, being able to like work with them and help to find them the next role is such a missed opportunity.
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. 8% is so low.
Crazy.
For companies that do like thousands of placements a year.
I know. Well, so I saw another small staffing company was looking for like a head of community too, and I was like, it's starting. Yeah. Because to me, really, this head of community is what we've seen is there's such an overlay with marketing too, because you got to produce the content. Because people, I say this, and I pull this from run clubs, strength clubs, whatever. The best way to build community is through suffering. Right? CrossFit, High Rocks, right? What's the suffering? The actual workout. What is the one thing we have for suffering? The job search. Whether you are at a job, if you have a job, you know the suffering it happens with the job search. So like that's why I'm building. I think we have an amazing opportunity to build a huge community because everybody understands. We're at this booth at this conference, and everyone's like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, this job search, I hate it. It's awful. Yeah, I would love to have a community around me, right? And then obviously issues like cool swag, cool content, then it like really starts kind of snowballing. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still learning. I've only been here for like 6 months. Is that, and this is what I've been telling at the booth, so hopefully it's true. You really have 3 steps. So really, I'm about to sneeze too. A candidate profile has been essentially has 3 touch points before they even get to the hiring manager. So you have the verified. They have to complete their profile. Make sure they're a real person, right? So that's kind of the quick, easy one. Then there's the assessments, right? We ideally try to get them to assess before we send them over. And the third one is the matching team does a video call, right? Yeah. So technically it's 3 interview steps already before they even get to the client.
It could work. Sometimes there are situations where somebody joins the community. They don't necessarily need to talk to a human yet. They can go in and start taking assessments.
Well, and then we're encouraging now.
Before they would get to a client, they would get screened by a person. That's where the human. That's where like the real person verification.
Well, and so we're selling it. We want in the community, in the Discord. So we grew our Discord from like basically nothing to 4,000 over the last 4 months, and like. We're actively telling people, hey, and we set up an email drip campaign too for everybody who logs in, who signs up. Like, go ahead and get the assessment knocked out now, so that we can move faster on the back end, right? So if you go ahead and do it, you can take it as many times as you want. That's fine. But go ahead and knock it out now, and so then when we're ready to move, we can move, and then you can hire faster.
We'd rather have an assessment on file than we'll prove. Not even prove. Like we'll learn more about your English communication, your style, your working styles, work history. We'll do a deep dive with the human. Record that. That can be shared with the client.
Yeah, it's one of the most common things I hear from hiring managers is when they're hiring, they're like, I spent most of my working day for the past week doing interviews. How do we take that away? So it's like, hey, you just have to do 1-for-1 interviews. You talk to a person, we've done the first 3 steps for you. You're just doing the final check. That's saving them so much time and letting them work on the job that they actually want to work on and were hired to do.
Well, like one of my friends, she's a director of engineering at a AI startup company out of Atlanta. She said she had 2,200 resumes for a senior level role she posted recently.
Through LinkedIn?
I think just through like the job boards or whatever. 2,200.
How do you even decide? You don't even know where to start.
Yeah, you don't even know how to start.
Yeah.
And then like for us, it's like don't even do that. Like literally, just like tell us what you need. I trust me, I've hard sold her a ton. They just don't use vendors. And she was like, I'd much rather use y'all. I don't want to go through 2,200 profiles.
Yeah. And to Zach's point earlier, resumes are static, and I think resumes are outdated. They've gotten to a point where people are doing what a resume traditionally is, but it's not super valuable in cutting through the noise of actually getting the job that you want, or for employers to hire the person that they want. Because a resume has 98% of the stuff on it isn't relevant to the person. So you've got 2 to 3 pages of dense information that you have to try and process for every profile. And you have to like pick out pieces and say, well, maybe this is an indicator I want to interview them, right?
Maybe.
And so the more that we can get to the actual like, hey, here's what the indicators are of who you want to interview and talk to, pre-screening,
which is what our profile, which is also what our portfolio or profiles do too.
Exactly.
The profile should surface the information that's relevant for that particular job, without having the talent have to go back and like, all right, let me customize this resume for this job.
Back in the day, I used to spend before every submittal customizing every resume.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's what they encourage job seekers to do. Every application, make a different cover letter and adjust your resume to suit the specific job.
And so for us, sign up.
Nobody has done it.
Yeah. So for us, sign up, get access to Ronstadt jobs, Torc jobs, have a profile that's enriching, changes. We can see what's going on. It's just I don't know. I may be dumb, but I feel like we're solving a lot of problems here.